this.
Back
All
again.
four of us back again. Trey abandoned the Luther Vandross microphone this
I
time.
apologize for that.
Dude,
It
that
was
awesome.
entertaining.
It was awesome. That was the most laughs I've had in a
No,
long
I apologize for abandoning it. Not, not having it. I don't know.
And by the way,
having it.
people who are only audio are like, "Who's the new guy?" Because like last time, you sounded so much different that it literally is a new person. That's the same guy with his normal octaves.
So I hide.
There might have been a nitrous leak in your office, though. That could have been it. You'd be like, I like you guys. You guys are cool.
So speaking of leaks,
here we go.
This morning I woke up to lots of furious phone calls, text messages, pictures of building burning down.
Oh, nice.
What?
Yep. And I was like, oh my gosh, here we go again. Like
another
PTSD.
One?
Yep. So couldn't tell if it was one of my buildings. Someone was giving me an aerial shot from their high rise, right? So it was my new office in Buckhead that we're moving to. We're actually building. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, these contractors lit, like a tool caught fire and now it's burning this building down again. Great. 2 fires in less than 3 years. I'm never going to get insured. You know, literally going through I'm a panic animal at this point, just going through all the next 5 steps of my life being ruined.
No.
And
you're a panic animal? No.
So I drove. You can't. The roasting doesn't start until the intro's Dwight. So I'm driving down to the street, right, and I still can't tell. I see smoke just billowing all Buckhead, fire engines everywhere, 50 fire engines. I finally get around the corner, and it looks like my building, but it's the bar next door called Buckhead Saloon.
Geez.
Literally next door. Like,
so you woke up to your building's on fire.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yep. So
at what time was this?
This was 7:15.
It's the way to roll. It's the way to start through Monday.
Yeah, it was. But, it was in my head, I was like, all right, there's a 50-50 chance. Like, what are the chances that building is on fire? And there's a bar next door, and they throw napkins in the air on a Sunday night. Like, it's one of those bars. Next door.
Yeah.
And
sure. That's normal.
But it caught fire. And honestly, they've been trying to build a high rise on that area for like so long. So, who knows? Maybe it wasn't.
We may get one.
Wasn't a very good bar. I mean, so anyway.
Good riddance to the bar, apparently.
Well, I mean, you hate to think. I mean, I've been through that tragedy. You hate to. Luckily, there's insurances for things like this, right? This is what you have it for. But anyway, so the interesting morning. So
that's true. You got insurance you got to remember, like you pay money, so you don't have to pay with emotion. So if your building does get lit up, you get the money. But yeah, that sucks. I've woken up to phone calls like that.
Yeah, you've had floodings, like lots of flooding.
Yeah, I've had floods. And
at least it wasn't this hurricane for you, though.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. True. It was on track, right, to do it. Okay, our resident bestie roaster.
Let's throw down some bestie action. Absolutely.
Let's
get going.
Why don't you intro us into this? It's going to be a great episode.
All right, we're going to go in different order this time.
Stay tuned.
Let's roll out. How about he's the CEO who loves hugs. He's the trailblazer and entertainer. His thoughts are so many we have to decipher them through a binary decoder. He's the mayor of Del Rey and the most likely to overpay. His name dropping power is only matched by his self-preservation desire. He's the sunny smile of the Sunshine State. Please welcome our very own Craig Spodak to the pod.
I like that. It's not just name dropping; it's my network, motherfucker.
Hey, you're all right. Let's roll. And of course, welcome, Craig. And of course, he's awaiting his 3rd child, and we're hoping to make him less wild. The true seeker and promise keeper. His ADHD may be more related to his college drinking, but his competitive edge keeps him practice reaping. The always agreeable Texas ranch hand who eats uppers for supper. He's the rainmaker himself, Trey Tippit.
I love it.
Dwight, who knew?
We're gonna roll down.
Who's his writer? He might have a writer.
Welcome.
Either that or he had a lot of time this weekend.
I mean, it doesn't matter how he did it. The fact is, he's here.
He gets it. Right?
I love going to sleep at night, the night before Sunday nights, and just be like, I gotta come up with crazy trash to talk about you guys.
How many Starbucks do you have, bro? Like that's the second. Like you literally have. I mean, what's going on here, guys?
He's alternating Starbucks.
Y'all. And I'm waiting for one day where each of you get to come up with something epic.
But what's in both cups, though, brother? What's going on there?
This is just because I need
one gas and one break.
He's got a medicine ball. He's not feeling well. They make something called a
that's
medicine
ball.
Oh, I missed that part. Okay,
and a regular coffee.
Okay, because I got one more.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
The one and only. What I need to do is I need to be biohacked by Pete. So coming to us from the comforts of his chili pad and his glutathione-infused green morning juice, this biohacker has no break, especially when he sees something he wants to take. Atlanta Dental Spa is his game, while the Atlanta social scene is his drain. The enterpriser himself, disagree with him and he'll run you over. The only way to partner with him is if he's the majority shareholder. Let's welcome the dictator himself, Peter Boulden.
Oh my God, Dwight, that was amazing. I'm the dictator.
Dictator.
That's I think they call the dictator that Chamath Polypapatia on.
That's awesome.
Anyway, that's hilarious.
Dwight, who's doing yours?
No one ever does Jason's until they switch, and so Jason's always on the thing. He always roasts it. So anyway, I love the dental analog of that intro. That's hilarious, Dwight. Good job. Okay,
awesome.
Always good. Always good.
Anyone else have anything pressing? No fires this morning. Trey, any updates that we need to clear the table with?
No.
Craig, any updates? Oh, Craig.
Wild.
Guess what, guys? Craig got asked to speak at the AACD, a main stage. In April.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So he said, I'm not doing it without you. I'm his security blanket on stage. You know, he likes when I just sit there and look at him.
Always.
And just go, you're doing great, buddy. You're doing great. So he's like,
Did I bomb?
I'm not doing it without you. And I was like, all right.
Pete's like, yeah, I'm free. So we're doing it. April 27th in Grapevine. Dwight, Texas boys,
Texas.
you want to make the
Dwight,
Grapevine?
Dwight, you got to come. We'll do some.
Let's go, Trey. Let's trek up there together. They're going to be in our state, so you got to make it happen.
Yeah, April 27th, we're there.
That we were doing a big thing on the patient experience, and I told Craig, I was like, we need a new book out by then. I think we're going to make one called The Patient Experience.
Yep.
I already started last night. And
we haven't fully agreed to it, but it's preliminary.
Well, let's put it this way: it's going to be written. Whether or not Craig gets to be put on the cover or not is up to Craig.
Yeah. No, I think I'd really do well with that. I'm obsessed with that patient experience stuff. So anyway, AACD, right. Pretty cool.
Yeah, cool stuff.
That would be epic. We just got to go up there and cause some trouble.
Yeah, heckle us.
We're only lecturing for an hour, so that means we could surround it with a lot of partying before and after.
Yeah, sounds like a plan to me. But we can do that.
So, Dwight, what do you have in store for us?
Let's throw down some big topics. I swear that it's about that time of year when everybody's either revving down or revving up. They seem to settle into their natural tensions as a business. And one of the main topics that keeps going around in dentistry right now is the one and only apparent Sucktember, as they like to call it in our industry. And it's funny, if you spend any time on social media, it's almost as if I see people, practice owners, just jumping on there, just complaining about their Sucktember. And the way they do it is they go on there and say, anybody else having a Sucktember? And they want to talk about it. And it amazes me because it's the same thing every year, right? And one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about is kind of like, why is it that we naturally get stuck on this mindset that business is what it is, and it's completely out of your control to be able to make changes? So I'm interested in hearing right off the bat, how is everybody feeling about their Sucktember, and what do you do every year to make sure you don't have a Sucktember? What type of strategies do you do right off the bat to make that difference? So how was your September?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So ours was a little bit down, Dwight. Honestly, a little less than impressive. So as you know, everyone thinks that the month is reflective of what you're actually doing in the month, and I am a proponent of there's a lag of 2 to 3 months. So the things that you were doing 2 to 3 months ago usually predicate the months you're having now. So we used to have slower summers until I said, there's got to be a way. I can't just sit around and keep complaining about the output of having a shitty summer. I need to change all these inputs in March and May. March and April to get us launched into that period. So I don't know, Dwight, if it's at this point. Here, let me pause that for a second. there was almost a point in my career where it was August for us, and it was almost a self-fulfilling prophecy for us, is that I kept saying it and saying it and saying it, like, oh shit, here comes August. Oh shit, here comes August, right? And like, as a poor leader would do, I was almost proclaiming that we are going to have a bad month coming up,
right?
And sure enough, guess what we have? Shitty month. So I'm not saying that there's not real data and science to it being a Sucktober. I think everyone's Sucktober is a little bit different, or Sucktember, whatever you call it, right? Mm-hmm. You know, look, school gets back in session. People are trying to travel. There's fall break. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. You can make excuses for anything, the economy, whatever. But there's always lulls in business, and your Sucktember might be an April. But I'm guessing that you're seeing a predominant amount of people in September. Is that what you're saying, Dwight?
What I'm saying is it seems to be like every year people freak out over the same thing, but they're not making any changes.
Well, how was yours? How was yours September?
We were up 18%.
From what? From last year, or from
last
month over
September?
Month? Got it. Okay.
But one of the biggest is that we put a lot of effort into it, right? I mean, we said, yes, there's a normal consumer expectation. Their spending habits might be changing, but if anything, I see it as if like you said, there's a little bit of a lag indication in that process. But if you see things coming along, you're having these great months and everybody's talking about these great summer months and things are happening, and then all of a sudden they know that, well, people are gone. Well, what are you changing? We actually started a big Invisalign program that we held off right before, and we kicked it in August to be able to kind of scale it in and scale through. We added new providers right in that time span, so it created kind of a practicality of saying, hey, we're going to make a bump and we're going to reshift some things. We started some new marketing and some different things to kind of make it happen. But it's things that we do differently throughout the year that we don't have to turn on in November, December. But we do have them on starting in the beginning of August. And so it turned out to be
18%. So you're not experiencing that. Craig, what about you?
I'm going to go last, if you don't mind.
Okay.
All right.
So
Trey,
I'll jump in and tell you. So those are all good points, but you're talking about a trailing 12 at that point, comparison over that. So everything you just said wasn't necessarily in preparation for September. It was preparation for just growth in general. And that acknowledges what Pete said from the standpoint of there's just a natural lull in business, whether it be in April or September. And misery loves company. So everybody loves to blame September. I actually had a doc tell me about September, and he had a great month.
Right.
Nailed all the goals. The whole practice nailed all the goals from that standpoint. But it's nothing more than just repeating what you've heard over and over again. And then you get into, and it can be a self-realizing prophecy, but at the same time, I agree. What happens this month was baked 2-3 months ago.
And I think it's important, because, predominantly this is listened to by doctors, right, who are leaders in their practice. And so if the tip of this spear, let's just say, is saying like, hey, Sucktember's coming, it almost gives everyone a hall pass, right? It almost is like, okay, cool. Doc's already acknowledged we're gonna have a shitty month. Well, let's have we're gonna have a shitty month kind of thing. So be careful with the words that you use. It's okay to do that amongst colleagues and your family and all that stuff, but be careful of the words that you use in the office, because they manifest and become real, right? Because
all of us have practices that our team is, a lot of their income comes from, incentive
bonuses.
plans. And 100%. For us, the way we really knew was we hit 4-tier bonuses in September. I mean, that's how we knew we were having a good month. And so the truth is for us to say those things, it's kind of like saying, hey, by the way, you're getting paid less this month, so don't work too hard. By you saying that out loud, it's just like literally, hey, by the way, you're going to get paid less this month. Of course, you're not going to put in the added effort, as opposed to coming in saying, let's make sure you're killing it this month. It makes all the difference in the world. But I think it does need that immediate, the same way people are responding negatively at the start of the month is how you should show up at the beginning of the month and say, let's go, let's make this happen. Let's double check it and maybe put a little bit more emphasis on it to make sure people are winning that month.
Yeah. Correct. So with, I've never heard this word before, Sucktember. I've never even heard it.
I hadn't either until Dwight proposed it in our text thread.
So I have a really good process of just ignoring people who have damaged psychology. And
Right.
what Peter just said, and what y'all alluded to, is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not what we say aloud, but what we whisper to ourselves silently that has the most power over us. And I don't have anybody in my world, and I try to eliminate them quickly if they show up, that has that type of psychology. Like, well, you know how it is, or you know how it is in Grapevine, Texas, or you know how it is over here.
Right.
Like, that's just bullshit.
Yeah.
So, in my particular situation, the reason why I wanted to go last is because, in full disclosure, and you guys are going to pick on me, I don't know how our September was just yet.
Oh my God.
I don't know, because I don't know how it finished, because I added 2 docs on August 1st. I wanted to say something about that. So one doc's been practicing 10 years, friend of Dwight's and mine.
You can look in your patient management software. You know.
I know. I don't know. I don't know last week because a hurricane rolled through and I've been chainsawing the last freaking 5 days. But
Excuses.
Yeah.
Such
exactly.
excuses, Trey.
So
I don't even know how I did.
It wasn't even a Cat 5.
I don't even know how I did. It's October 3rd. It's
I'm
October
kidding,
3rd.
bro.
Yes, well, there's a lot of people suffering right now with that.
Bro,
but anyway, I'll let that slide.
Yeah,
So we added 2 doctors August 1st at the same exact time. Both started August 1st. One's been practicing for 10 years. That's our friend Dwight. And the other one's been practicing for 12 years. Within the first 40 days, they both landed or closed and started their largest treatment plans of their entire professional career. So one was a $95,000, one was a $74,000. And for them, those two, independent of each other, those were the largest treatment plans they've ever presented, closed, and started in their career. So 22 years of dentistry. So why do I not care how the last week finished up? Because I've added so much wood to this fire. And I think in business, if you guys were saying, what have you done 3 months ago? What have you done 4 months ago? If your business is all about innovation and growth, you should consistently be adding fuel to the fire, or else you're going to be up to the whims of what's happening in your local economy and what time of year it is. But you can't compare one year to the next if you've added shit tons of infrastructure. If you added equipment or scanners or printers or people, how could it not grow?
I think
if you wait, I agree, Craig. I like that. I like what you're saying. And sometimes people they wait until the symptoms occur of what they're experiencing and they're like, wait, and you could have done a preliminary checkup 3 months, a year prior and avoided the systemic whatever. It's easy to say though, right? Because we all get busy, we all get rolling, right? And then you forget that marketing got stale, employees
but Pete,
got
you're
stale.
You're the one who always says you're either growing or dying. You always say there's no such thing in business.
There's no
as
coasting.
There's none.
Right.
So I would like to actually coast. I'm, knock on wood, doing how well I want to be doing. And I actually would like, if there was the coasting button for me personally, I would actually like to hit that button. I want to repeat the same 2 years I've had for the rest of my career, and 3% for inflation or whatever. Obviously inflation is probably 30%, but something. But I just know I can't do that. It's either too hot or too cold, and you'll never be able to. So I have to innovate. But I feel compelled to innovate because of what you always say. There's no coasting.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, the good news is, though, at this point, you can flutter your wings a little less to maintain that kind of equilibrium, right? You don't need to make draconian moves to say, oh, we're in a fire. And actually, I would recommend not doing things. When you get to a place that you like, split and beta test little things here and there to just move the lever a little bit, because you've gotten to there. It's not these big movements that you need to do, because that can mess you up, actually. You want to just keep innovating at a 3 to 5% ratio, not these 20% swings. So,
but I think paranoia,
I'm glad you're bringing that up, Greg.
The paranoia is good for business owners. We need to be slightly paranoid of 100%. Who's going to eat our lunch, what's going to happen. This is not good enough. The patient experience is not good enough. There needs to be a certain healthy paranoia for business owners and you got to keep pushing for the innovation.
We actually just, sorry to interrupt. I like your paranoid thing, because I think it's a healthy thing. We actually just did we had a meeting, and I'm really instituting doing SWOT stuff a little bit more, just so with my leadership team, just so it kind of brings up awareness of things like, here's where we're really strong. Let's stay there. Here's where we have opportunities. Here's where we have threats. Here's where we have, weaknesses. And I think that's a good thing to run, even if it's just you, the doc, listening to this. Even if it's just you, go through that exercise, because putting your awareness on where you're kind of weak, I think just inherently you start kind of it's almost like that Pearson's law, right? What you're looking at, what you're tracking, gets better over time. But just to put your head in the sand and be like, oh, I hope we do the same next month, and I hope we do the same in a year from now. Like, you might not. You might not.
Yeah.
And you don't
And
step
people
in front
get
of
really
somebody.
complacent. I have one of my doctors, awesome guy, he's just been in my ecosystem for so long. He just thinks that the marketing and the machine that we've done is built and it's set it and forget it.
Right.
So like my social media company is having trouble getting before and afters, and we have shit tons of before and afters every single day. I mean, 10 dentists every single day. We have an amazing before and after. And it's like, I'm like, I had to tell him, I'm like, listen, you are protected in this ecosystem because you just think it's magic that 200 new patients show up
in the door.
And it was hard for him to understand. And finally, he decided to post something. It was a beautiful case because he's super talented. And invariably he got tons of people connecting on it, which is awesome. But it's wild that, success changes you. Success forces you or can sometimes manipulate you into thinking you're too good to fail, or you're too talented, or you don't need to do all this
there,
stuff.
Craig, on something you said. I think that's a really good idea, especially when you get to the size in which all four of us are on this, right? You have doctors that say, hey, maybe we can augment the marketing. Maybe we could do some more things here and there. And then you ask, well, have you been asking for referrals? The reviews in that location have been a little lax. Have we been asking for reviews, right? Has there been a lot, where I'm going is that adding more money to marketing doesn't equal more butts in the chair all the time.
Absolutely.
Right? There has to always be a grassroots thing. And so to your point, Craig, about the associate you're talking about is saying like, hey, like he's very comfortable because you have a machine that's built to get butts in the chair, right, on regular cadence.
Right.
And that allows some of the internal grassroots operations, things that we all need to be doing as providers, is asking for a referral, asking for a review, asking how was your experience, all these things. That is the most powerful marketing. It's not, hey, I threw in another $1,000 to Google so that it would augment that location. I mean, yes, you can do that, but only after, all the post-op calls have been done and,
of course,
all the things like that,
after
right?
you focus on the patient experience, which y'all were talking about earlier.
Right.
And I do think this comes up, like what I'm thinking is like the thermostat, the human psychology thermostat. We all have a thermostat for how our life is meant to look like, how fit we're meant to be, how much money we're meant to be. And when you make more money than you think, I think there's this thing, you turn on the AC and you cool that shit down. And when it gets too low, you get panicked, you speed it up. Like Peter and I talk a lot about our own personal finances, and like, when there's cash, we're like, oh man, we got to deploy this. And like, blah, blah, blah. We're going to take over the world. And like, we deploy a lot of cash. And a couple months later, the conversation is like, oh shit. So it's like there's a thermostat, that we all have. And I think that once you're making the right level of success, you get comfortable, but that comfort is going to kick your ass. So comfort in business is very, very dangerous.
Toxic, yeah.
I think this is a huge topic, especially for a lot of the Bulletproof listeners. Like, this is the biggie right here. The concept of segregating what I like to call is natural tension, right, within a business. A lot of people believe that if you are a good leader, there will be no tension in your business. Tensions are things we have to manage. Conflicts are problems we have to solve. There's a big difference between a tension and a conflict. And I think one of the big things that you're talking about here, which I think we're trying to just get all in the same vocabulary, and this is how I tend to explain it, and I love it, is a tension can be described as, for example, if I'm always at work, my family and my life may suffer. But if I'm always at home, I might lose my job. That's a natural tension. And it's also healthy. It's almost expected that you should have those levels of tension because you want to be at work. You want to make a lot of effort because it brings home the bacon all at the same time. You want to spend some time with your family because you want to know what you're working so hard for. And there's that balance. But the same thing is what you're talking about there is that if there is no tension and you're just on the auto button, first of all, we know that in our industry, it's consolidating, it's changing too fast. So auto button is tremendously dangerous. You're not just going to stay status quo, you're going to go down. But the other side of it is the fact that you're not looking into your business enough to recognize that tension and to accept it and to make those pivots and those changes. And it didn't take but a pandemic for everybody to realize they had to wake up and shock themselves and make some pivots. So
I think if you're listening to this, right, I always look for the action that you can do instead of just we pontificate about problems and it doesn't solve anything. I think, and I would like to hear y'all's feedback on this. You, as someone listening, print out your trailing 12 months or trailing 36 months and see if you identify a trend in your practice, whether it's July that stinks or if it's September, like Dwight is indicating. And then look for like the causative factors that happen prior to that. Is that when everyone goes on vacation? Right. Look for the reasons of what that happens. If you don't see and identify a trend to circumvent for the next year, right? Now you have, let's say you have 10 months to prepare for this, then start changing some things up in preparation. And I think it's a healthy thing so that you don't become victim to the narrative of, oh, we're gonna have a shitty September. Like really strive all year long to change that narrative. And I think when you do and you can, and you all of a sudden have a shitty September, and then the next September you have an awesome September, it changes everything and it becomes a power play versus like, you know, there's nothing you can't do. You kind of feel invincible, so to speak. And you need these as a practitioner, as an entrepreneur. You need to be able to say like, I am in control of this destiny. That's important.
And not only that, stabilizing your operations. Stop thinking as, oh, the patient's available, let's shove it in there. Stabilizing operations, meaning no more feast and famine work. You're going crazy and you're jumping it up and down. You're not templating out your schedules. You don't have set goals for your day.
Reactionary versus reactive versus proactive.
We have a doctor in the mastermind that was struggling with this. It's like, I can't say no to all my patients. They keep coming in. Well, have you hit your goal? Yeah, I've hit it by midday. Well, you need to let your team breathe, or you know what's going to happen to your business naturally? You're going to have turnover. You're going to burn out your people, and you're constantly going to be like saying it's okay. And guess what? You're not going to survive that. And at the end of the day, you're going to come back and complain, well, these months are high, these months are low. Why don't you just stabilize your business and make sure that the infrastructure is set in place in a way that makes it more stable?
Because, you know, in fairness to that guy, though, and we've all been here, he's just doing constant clinical dentistry. So when you're putting 95% of your output toward patient care, by 5:30, 6 o'clock, you know, you're picking up the pieces. Sandy, the hygienist, wanted to talk to you at 9. She's upset about something. You don't have their systems put in place, and you're just totally spinning your wheels, and you don't have strategic. You're not a good leader because your time is short. You're spent, and you just can't do it anymore. So if you really made that decision, you want to run a dental business, not just a dental practice. And there's a distinction there because either one is fine. You could actually be a very successful dentist that works 4 days a week or 5 days a week, makes money. It doesn't have to deal with all this bullshit we're talking about right now. But if you jump over the line and say, no, I want to be dental business owner, then you're going to have to put the handpiece down just a little bit every single day so that you can be strategic and thoughtful, because all you're doing is running around fixing clogged toilets all day. This is going on, that's going on. And you're so reactive. It's just impossible. And by the way, I just want to tell you, we collected 9%, 10% more in September.
Dwight's 18. Craig, you're 10% more. I was probably 10% down. I don't know year over year. I just know that it's trending. And Trey?
But I would never go. I would always compare the same month, the same year. I would never subject myself to like, how is September versus April? Who gives a shit? As long as you're growing every single month. Yeah. And if you're not growing, figure out why you can. I'm in a weird space too, Peter. And I've talked to Peter a lot about this, where I am comfortable and uncomfortable being comfortable. Yeah. So I am stressed out. Like, why are you so comfortable? Someone's going to eat your lunch. Like I talked to my doctors, like there are groups all around here that are doing Instagram and better than we are, and before and afters, and they do 1/10 of the volume. Like, what are we doing? Our market machine's frozen, blah, blah, blah. I'm like getting amped up.
Well, Craig, that's the health of your leadership, right? At the same time, you're getting exposed to a lot of other doctors and their practices through Bulletproof, which inherently helps you realize, wow, there are some things out there that we may not be feeling or sensing, but let's tackle it before it hits the doors of our office and affects my team. And I think that's the beauty of your leadership and the way you're seeing it that way. Trey, where were you at September?
So from a trailing 12, I have no idea comparison wise, but like Pete, we're trending upward. So I'll watch the overall trend, in which case.
You guys don't compare this month, this year to this month last year?
I personally do not.
Trailing 12 is what
Interesting, because if there are seasonal dips, like 40% of our patient base moves out of the state in the summer.
Right. And that's why I don't look at month over month, because one, you're cash accounting and everything's paid on credit card. I mean, we can have financial consequences 90 days later.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried month over month.
How many
Well,
don't
what
run-
have you guys? I guess
Cool.
Important comparison.
what let me ask you, Trey, first. What looks different in your ecosystem September of this year? What wood or fuel did you add to the fire this year versus last year? I'd love to know, like, what are like 3 things that you've done that have added that are adding? Did you add an office? Did you add
I'm
location?
gonna go with what you said earlier. Is I'm embarrassed to say nothing. I don't really pay attention to September. We don't actively.
Did you add? Have you hired an additional doctor? Have you gone from 12 to 15
yeah,
total doctors?
we've added doctors. We're always in that innovation aspect. So you're
But
adding
net
doctors,
doctor
you're
growth.
training
You've
them.
had net doctor growth.
Yes.
Okay, got it. I think that's important. Net doctor growth, net chair growth. I mean, Peter, are you net chair growth or are you net down because of moving and stuff?
Yeah. No.
He was
there's
going
no
to
real
become that fire, but
Yeah, well, luckily it's not open yet, so that's not affecting me.
Because I would take that into consideration too. Like,
Sure.
I don't know if that just makes me feel better.
I mean, you're talking about
That's
increasing
laying the
utilization.
foundation. That talks about what I was saying. You're laying the foundation. You're innovating, and you're in a constant state of innovation to address that paranoia that you don't want to coast and start to slip, not paying attention.
Because Dwight, with 18% growth, didn't you acquire last September of last year? Did you have that standalone Fort Bend Dental in that shopping center that you acquired?
So this was just individual practices. That hasn't changed since last September, but we've added more providers here, which is good. I mean, they started last month, just like you did. So that's healthy. But for me, utilization is what's increasing, and that's really what I care about the most is per hour per chair, and that makes a tremendous difference for us.
It's an
But-
interesting metric.
It sure is. Let me see here. Let me jump.
It's an interesting place. I think I think we're all in very interesting places right now, which is it makes for a good conversation. But I've never been in a place like this before. I used to be. It's just a weird space for me right now.
I would second that. I'm in that same.
Yeah, but you were there like last year. I couldn't understand it when you were there. Now I'm there. Trey would say to me like, "What do I do? Like, I just don't want to mess anything up. Like, I'm just at that point, super self-aware of like, I think possibly had I just pivoted a little sooner, I could have gotten out of the way and my organization would have been further along. I mean, it's all fine. It is the right time. Yeah. I don't want to look backwards, but I'd say 5 years ago, if I put the handpiece down, we would have gone out of business in like, I don't know, a handful of weeks or months. So it's like, I was the one that was maybe not 5, and maybe I got my dates wrong, but there was a certain point in the last decade where if I would have stopped generating my own revenue, the practice would have fallen apart. And it's like a lot of doctors always ask us, like, how do you know when like you can step back? Or, it's a very fine line because you got to keep the thing running and you want to jump off at the same time. So it's like a very timed example. But anyway, I digress.
Perfect.
Well, I think that's a good place to kind of put a pin in that. I think we covered that. I'd like to close this one down and let's start a new topic here.
Let's
do
do
you guys
it.
have anything else in closing? Got anything, Greg?
No, I really like this one. This is great. Yeah. So thanks for bringing this up, and we'll roll right into another one. So if you're craving more Bulletproof, just hit forward to the next one. See y'all in a minute.
Later, folks.